Everybody. After you've been an owner operator for several years and you've purchased two or three trucks, uh, you know, you've learned quite a bit. You're probably, towards the end of a learning process. At first it starts out very slow, and then your learning just kind of takes off, and then it kind of peaks out. As you've got a lot of the subject matter under your belt, so to speak. What I do is I focus on the fundamentals. I just have healthy, habits of doing everything correctly. I do all my maintenance planning, very carefully. I do the same pre-trip every single day. I have goals I set for the day, like 400 or 500 miles for the day, and I just do the basics. I do the fundamentals over and over and over again. And this is how I achieve success, and this is how I'm going to maintain success. Because I think sometimes once you've completed this learning process, you're like, well, there's nothing else for me to learn. Well, this is the point where you can start enjoying it. A lot of times when I'm in traffic and I see another trucker that, is kind of stuck in a bad spot, I make an effort to help them out, kind of block the traffic, give them some room, get on the CB and tell them pull in front of me. This is kind of like honing your skills. Do you have to do that? No, but I think you'd get more out of it if you did. It's like, if you're on your second or third truck, you're probably at the top of your game. And it wouldn't hurt for you to help other drivers, who have less experience or who are up and coming. I think this would be very important for you to give back a little bit to the trucking community. But when guys think about achieving success, you also got to maintain success. And in order to do that, you got to do the things that led you to be successful in the first place. You got to focus on the fundamentals. You can never really get away from paying attention to those little things. It's just once you start taking things for granted, you'll start slipping. Once you start slipping, you'll lose momentum. When you lose momentum, then you start going backwards. I think this is the idea. You got to hone your skills, hone your craftsmanship. Your experienced owner operator put the polishing touches on. That really makes it so that you're providing a high quality of customer service, and you're providing a benefit to other drivers with less experience. This is the idea of being a master craftsman, is that all the ins and outs, all the tricks, you know as much as anyone probably knows, and it's time for you to mentor others who aren't yet at the same skill level as you are. So, give that some thought. Just think about honing your skills. Just a skilled trade. You're a craftsman. You gotta put on the finishing touches, the polishing. Make everything at an extremely high level. You're performing at extremely high level, especially when it comes to customer service. I think a lot of the customers appreciate a driver who puts customer service high on their priority list. Customers can be terrible. There's no doubt about it. But they have detention, then find something to do. But don't get angry. Because your focus is on customer service. So these are the things that I do. Once now that I've achieved this 10-year point of being an owner operator, there's not a lot out there for me to continue learning, as far as compared to when I first started out. Now it's just polishing the rough edges and honing the craftsmanship. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.